has resulted in the arrest of 72 people, according to the Mississippi Attorney General, Lynn Fitch, during Operation Guardian Force.
America, we just witnessed one of the largest human trafficking operations in recent history in Mississippi. 72 people arrested, 29 victims rescued, and 400 law enforcement officers working together in Mississippi's Operation Guardian Force. Here's what's really shocking. The U.S. State Department says 15,000 people are sold for X in this country every single day. This 2-week operation barely scratched the surface of this problem that's happening in our own backyard.
Operation Guardian Force took 2 weeks, 400 federal, state, and local agencies working together.
What is up, guys? Tyson Dela Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. This story proves that when you have law enforcement that actually gets serious about fighting human trafficking, they can get real results. But it also exposes just how massive this problem really is in America. Let me break down what happened in Mississippi. Operation Guardian Force ran from July 14th to July 29th, just 2 weeks. But in that short time, they coordinated 400 federal, state, and local law enforcement officers across multiple counties, including Jackson, Harris, Stone counties, plus police from St. Louis and Biloxi.
According to the Mississippi Attorney General, Lynn Fitch, during Operation Guardian Force, law enforcement officers were able to rescue 29 human trafficking victims.
This wasn't just a human trafficking operation either. Catherine Bezu from the Gulf Coast Center of Nonviolence explained the operation had many folds in it. There was a drug sting. There was a human trafficking sting. They found these criminal networks are interconnected. The same people trafficking humans are often dealing drugs and committing other violent crimes.
There was a drug sting and there was a human trafficking sting, which we were a part of. We were invited by the Attorney General. We did 2 days with the law enforcement.
What I love about this operation is they just didn't arrest criminals. They actually had victim services ready to help 29 people that were rescued. Bezu says when they brought in the victims, they were able to give them the resources that they need. They were able to seek medical attention if they wanted it, and they offered them shelter also if they wanted it. And here's where it gets really disturbing. Former detective and White House human trafficking czar Bill Wolf dropped some statistics that would make every American kind of pissed off. The average age that somebody enters the ex-trafficking trade in America is 16 years old, but he worked in cases involving children young as 9 years old being sold for X.
Yeah, in the United States, the average age that somebody first enters into the sex trafficking trade is about 16 years old. In cases a lot younger, I've worked cases as young as 9 years old that were being sold for sex.
And this isn't some foreign problem that we can't just ignore. Wolf made it crystal clear when he said this.
This is a domestic problem, right? This is something that's happening here in the United States. It's happening in our communities. It has the ability to impact every neighborhood across our country right now.
The U.S. Department of State estimates that there are 14,500 to 17,500 domestic victims trafficked every single day in America. That means while we're worried about problems overseas, we have a massive criminal enterprise operating right underneath our nose, almost in every single state.
We would try to plan these these operations, and they're really complicated to get this many law enforcement agencies together to get victim services, to be able to conduct the actual investigations themselves. So well done to Mississippi and the Attorney General's office.
What makes this Mississippi operation so significant is that it shows what's possible when law enforcement actually prioritizes this issue. Mississippi Attorney General Lynn Fitch made this a priority, and look at the results. 72 arrested, 29 victims rescued in just 2 weeks.
This is the first statewide operation we've ever done. We had over 400 law enforcement officers, our federal, our state, our local partners, my investigators and prosecutors leading the charge all together. We started on the coast. We ended up in DeSoto County, and we're able to go after these criminal actors, the ones that are going after our children, our young people, these drug dealers that are peddling poison to our children. We all see that. We know what's happening, and we know what's going on online. And so we had all of my teams that are the task force in the office. We had Internet Crimes Against Children, Human Trafficking Task Force, Cyber Fraud, and the Fentanyl Strike Force, because you're always going to have the component of the drugs.
But here's the problem. Most of these victims get written off by the system. He said they're juvenile delinquents, they're non-responders to services, and so we don't invest the time or the effort.
But the reality is that oftentimes you're right. These young people are written off by the system. They're said, they're juvenile delinquents, they're non-responsive to services, and so we don't invest the time or the effort. We've really got to do better about shifting the narrative around this.
Catherine Bezu from the Gulf Coast Center pointed out another huge problem. Not a lot of people understand what human trafficking actually is, or may not realize that they have been trafficked. The victims themselves don't even know that they're victims because of psychological control that these traffickers use.
So it takes a little bit of kindness and patience when you're dealing with victims. Because
this operation also exposes something else that should concern every American. Wolf noted that we're seeing where the internet is becoming a problem.
Seeing where these traffickers, the offenders, are just getting access to younger and younger people and exploiting them.
But here's something that really got to me. Wolf pointed out the problem affects all demographics, but it doesn't get the attention that it actually deserves. He said if it were all beautiful white kids from suburban neighborhoods, it'd probably be more of an urgency. The reality is these traffickers target the most vulnerable kids from broken houses, runaways, and those the system has already failed. What's encouraging is that only 15 out of the 29 victims initially accepted help, but that doesn't mean the others won't come around. Bezu explained that sometimes they may not be ready to accept their situation, or they might be too scared because abusers have control over them. The success of Operation Guardian Force proves when we actually commit resources and coordinate properly, we can make a real difference. But this is just one operation in one state over 2 weeks. Imagine what we could accomplish if every state made this a priority.
Yes, those that are coming across the border are particularly vulnerable to trafficking, but it's also U.S. kids and young adults that are being targeted as well.
Yeah, and very often lower on the socioeconomic ladder.
What I want to see is more operations like this happening nationwide. We need more attorney generals like Lynn Fitch who are willing to commit 400 officers for 2 weeks to actually rescue victims and arrest traffickers. This is happening in every community across America. The internet has made it easier for traffickers to operate, but it also made it easier for law enforcement to track them down when they actually try. The fact that they rescued 29 victims in just 2 weeks shows how many people are out there waiting for help. But on the other hand, they can only be helped if we're actually looking for them. America, this Mississippi operation should be a wake-up call for every state in the country. When law enforcement gets serious about human trafficking, they get results. 72 arrested and 29 victims rescued in just 2 weeks proves that this problem is solvable if we actually commit to solving it. But we can't let this be a one-off operation. We need sustained coordination efforts like this happening in every single state. We need attorney generals who prioritize protecting American children over political games. And we need to recognize this isn't some foreign problem. This is a domestic crisis happening in our own communities. Every day we don't act, 15,000 more are being sold into X in America. I'll keep you updated as more operations like this hopefully happen across the country. And remember, this is what happens when law enforcement actually focuses on protecting the most vulnerable Americans instead of playing politics. Let me know what you guys think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.